Last week, the repeal of Michigan's anti-union law, known as Right to Work, went into effect. The Nation reported that in addition to formally scrapping the anti-labor law on Tuesday, Michigan also restored prevailing wage protections for construction workers, expanded collective bargaining rights for public school employees, and restored organizing rights for graduate student research assistants at the state's public colleges and universities. Hell yeah. Results. Gotta love it. AFL-CIO President Ron Bieber of Michigan said, "This moment has been decades in the making. By standing up and taking their power back at the ballot box and in the workplace, workers have made it clear that Michigan is, and always will be, the beating heart of the modern American labor movement." Yes. And I am proud to see my state actually getting back to some of its labor roots, especially after Rick Snyder did everything he could to mess them up, by including signing Right to Work. Now, as of today, Michigan is no longer a Right to Work state, announced the Teamsters Union in social media postings that featured a party hat and confetti. Great. The SEIU celebrated the news as a big win, saying after a decade of organizing and voting for change, Michigan workers just officially won the repeal of the state's so-called Right to Work law. This is the power that we have when we unite at work, in the streets, and at the ballot box. So now the law was called Right to Work, but it didn't actually have anything to do with your ability to, get a job or your right to get a job and make a living. No, it's another one of those weird Orwellian type of bills that actually has nothing to do with the name. I mean, think of Republicans creating like the rainbows, puppies, and butterflies bill, but in reality, it just allows the, local plant to dump sludge into the river. Nothing to do with the rainbows, puppies, and butterflies, other than, of course, to, I guess, kill the puppies. But that's what they do. Now, this bill was actually designed to help employers by depriving unions of much needed funding in order to collectively bargain. So they did that by allowing workers to freeload off the union. Okay, so if you, under Right to Work, if you hire into a place that has a union, you don't have to join it and you don't have to send money to it. So you could reap all the benefits of a union contract without actually being part of the union or, putting money towards union dues to help fight for those better contracts. So this is the Republican way of trying to kill public, labor unions, okay? Now, the right wing says, oh good, that's because unions support Democrats. Not really. See police unions, right? They don't always agree with Democrats either, because look, what they're there to do is they're there to look out for labor interests. Sometimes Democrats do things that are not in favor of labor's interests, okay? And I'm talking more corporate Democrats on that. Democrats are just better when it comes to labor policy. Look, for example, you can criticize Joe Biden on a lot of different things, but his NLRB, National Labor Relations Board, has been fantastic, okay? And look, you can criticize Joe Biden for breaking a strike when it came to the trains, I believe. So the rail unions were trying to do a strike because, there's just so many derailments and things that are happening because they're understaffed. These trains are understaffed and they continue to derail because these companies have made it so that they hire as few people as possible while loading up the trains as long as possible in order to get a lot more money. And they've been allowed to do that. And so it got to a crisis point where labor workers, rail workers are like, okay, we're going to strike. And Biden came in and broke that. That is one massively negative thing that the Biden administration has done when it comes to labor. But the NLRB has been really good. He's also passed some very pro-labor, legislation, or tried to pass legislation, then executive orders undoing some of Trump's attacks on labor. And so it's a bit more of a mixed record, but generally more good than bad. that you're going to get from Democrats versus Republicans. Republicans on labor, you're just going to get all bad and lots of it. Okay. So there's the difference, right? But what happened in Michigan is actually much different than that, because this is all good. It's all good news. Michigan voters put Democrats in power in the state, and now you have the repeal of terrible labor laws, as well as more favorable labor laws getting passed into power. And so not only that, but thanks to the overturning of the gerrymandered legislative district maps that have favored Republicans and the election of Democratic majorities, you've got a much better place for labor in Michigan. For the first time in 4 decades, you have Democrats in control when it comes to, the levers of power. And this is what they're doing. They're helping labor. This is great. And by the way, labor is what we really need to be focused on, okay? We need to empower workers. Obviously, unions are still the best way of doing that, the easiest way of doing that. But there's also things like, for example, creating worker co-ops, which, are just a great form of workplace democracy. And so you have these pro-labor positions that are getting wins in the state of Michigan. And look, I'm hoping that it continues to be used as an example of what happens when you do allow pro-labor Democrats to get into power, what they're capable of, and what organizing at the local community and workplace level can do when it's done correctly and for a good purpose. So this is a great win. Great on Whitmer. She's been excellent on labor rights. And so hopefully Michigan can be used as an example of what Democrats across the country can do